The Ondo governorship election campaigns has intensified as it's now weeks away from the race to determine the next governor of the southwest state. And the Nigerian labor unions have threatened strikes over recent increase in price of petrol and electricity tariff. We'll find out why labor is going on strike and what federal government is doing about it. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalo in Lagos. It's the midweek edition of the program, and so in the next 60 minutes we're going to take you through some of your major political stories that you need to know before we dive into what will become a major conversation in the land today. The race for the governorship seat in Ondo State gets us talking, and especially a lot of you who are now talking about whether or not it's going to be a three-horse race, unlike what we saw in Edo State. What has the Edo governorship election taught anyone in Ondo State? What will become of that election in the next few weeks? We touch on that on tonight's program. And again, we will touch on President Muhammadu Buhari's policies and the plan of labor unions to go on strike. Negotiations are ongoing, but what will happen in the coming days? Let me show you some of your political roundup stories that you need to know now.
The meeting of the Federal Executive Council held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja with President Muhammadu Buhari presiding. It's the 16th virtual meeting of the Cabinet, which also has the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, in attendance. Some ministers who are also physically present include the Minister of Transportation, Information and Culture, Interior, as well as Works and Housing. Other ministers and government officials participated remotely from their offices. The hearing of the appeal filed by the Governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Daye Diri, before the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has been stalled due to the appearance of two different counsel representing the Advanced Nigeria Democratic Party, ANDP. At the resumed hearing, lawyer to the respondents, Mr. Kende Ogumumiju, a senior advocate of Nigeria, announced appearance for the ANDP. But the second counsel also announced appearance for the same party on the grounds that the party instructed him to take over the case. Following the appearance of two counsel for the party, the court adjourned the appeal to September the 24th, despite the objection by Governor Diri's lawyer. The Bayelsa Governorship Election Tribunal had on August the 17th nullified the election of Governor Diri based on the petition filed by the ANDP, which argued that it was unlawfully excluded from participating in the exercise. Reactions continue to trail the victory of Governor Godwin Obaseki in the Edo election, even outside his state. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike described the re-election of Governor Obaseki of Edo State as a triumph for democracy and the end of political godfatherism in the country. Governor Wike's message was conveyed to the leadership and members of the Wike Solidarity Movement from the 23 local government areas of the state who were embarked on an election victory in Port Harcourt. Enugu State Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi is calling for a peaceful atmosphere across the state to enable his administration to deliver on various campaign promises. This was part of his remarks when he received a group led by the former governor, Chimaroke Nnamani, who paid him a solidarity visit. He assured the people of his administration's commitment to bring democratic dividends to all corners of the state. Some youth under the ages of the Okigwe Progressive Youth Movement have staged a protest in Owerri, the Imo State capital, against the conduct of the APC primary election in Imo North Senatorial District. The young people are rejecting the submission of Frank Ibezim's name to INEC as the APC candidate for the October 31st by-election in Imo North Senatorial District. The protesters in their numbers, carrying placards with various inscriptions, marched to INEC office along Port Harcourt Road and later to the Government House, insisting that Senator Ifeanyi Ararume is the winner of the APC primary elections, while maintaining that they would not want the party to lose the forthcoming by-elections for fielding an unpopular candidate.
Just before we go to Ondo, it appears we may not be quite done with stories relating to Edo State governorship election of last Saturday. Governor Obaseki is continuing with his thank you visits, this time around to some of the governors of the South region for their role in actualizing his re-election dream as governor of Edo State. Today he's in Rivers State. Governor Obaseki says the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, played a major role to ensure that the mandate of Edo people was protected. Governor Obaseki was in company of his wife, the Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu, and his wife, as well as other Edo State political leaders. Take a listen to some of what they said after that meeting.
We are here to say, Uwese, thank you very, very much. The victory we are celebrating, yes, it's from God, but God used people to make it happen. This house, this venue, was where it all happened. I can't forget that after I was pushed out of my former party, the first place I came to seek solace, to seek support, was in this very, very house.
Let me, on behalf of the government and people of the state, sincerely thank the governor. Why do I say thank you? He has said that God used people to actualize a particular objective, but you must make yourself available. So he made himself available for God to use him to fight against godfatherism in Nigeria. So I want to sincerely thank him. It is not easy to stand against certain forces. For you to even have the courage to say, look, for whatever it was, I will stand for the people of Edo State and make sure that Edo people get the best.
Well, you heard it. So, the Edo governorship election is over now, and we're looking forward to the conduct of the Ondo governorship poll. That election happened in a matter of weeks. It will happen precisely on the 10th of October 2020. Well, there's some information that you need to know about that election or the state, Ondo State, which is in the southwest region of the country, how big that state is in terms of the landmass, the voting population, just about 1.8 million. The actual voting population that we will see is in a matter of 1.4 because of the collected PVCs that are available, although we've never seen as much of people vote in that state as much as 1.4 in the last in the recent history. But if amount of people will come out to vote, 1.4 million is yet to be seen. There are 18 local government areas with 3 senatorial districts, and those are some of the information that you need to know about Ondo State. Tonight we'll be speaking to people who are in the know about this race, especially those who are said to have been in the front line in the campaigns that we have seen so far. I'm being joined tonight by the director of the media of the Jegede and PDP campaign organization, Dr. Benson Enikuomei. Thank you so much, Dr. Benson Enikuomei, for joining us tonight on the program.
The pleasure is mine, and good evening to everyone at home.
Thank you so much, Dr. Enikuomei. What has the Edo governorship election taught you in the PDP in Ondo State?
Well, we must thank God that the election in Edo State came. We all witnessed it, and today we can tell the story that it has come, it has gone. Lessons to learn. One, that the election was for the people of Edo State. And it was determined by the people of Edo State. That it was for the benefit of the people of Edo State. So if we're going to define that election of the people of Edo State, by the people of Edo State, for the benefit of the people of Edo State. And therefore, they made categorical statement to say, we are not going to allow ourselves to be colonized by any person whatsoever. The decision of who should be our governor rests squarely and absolutely on us. And therefore, we are going to take our destiny into our hands. And they did. They stood by their votes. Their votes counted. they followed the votes to the various units and ensured that that which was done at the unit was transferred to the wards, from the wards to the local government, and from the local government to the state. At every stage, the people of Edo follow it.
So for people who thought that PDP may not have a chance initially in Ondo State, what kind of inspiration have you gotten from Edo State? Does it give you any form of does it raise any chance for you in Ondo?
When you witness success, you learn from it. For the people of Ondo State, the election that is coming is for the Ondo State people, will be determined by Ondo State people and for the benefit of the Ondo State people. Therefore, we should follow our votes from the unit, ensure that the votes that are cast in the units are counted in our very presence. We witness it, record same, and nobody goes home. No fighting. When you are going for the election, carry your bread if you are likely to be hungry. Carry a bottle of Coke. Carry water. When you have cast your vote, stay aside and be washing. There is no crime in washing your vote. You must stay by the vote.
Because
therefore, the people must stay by the vote, and thereafter, they must escort the vote. And I use the word excursion. Escort the vote to the wards, and from the wards to the local government and to the state. It's a lesson from Edo State, and we must take it in.
All
Two,
right.
we must also call on INEC, because INEC did a little bit beautiful in Edo State, though some of us have been skeptical about what has transpired of recent. But maybe when you are criticized for a long period of time, you want to make a change. And so what happened in Edo State, I want to call on INEC, Professor Mahmoud led Independent National Electoral Commission, to raise the bar, to do more, and ensure the transparency that happened in Edo State. The police also have been commended, and I'm not going to join in condemning them, but they must also do more.
All right.
If we do all this, the people of Ondo State, who are now moving very strongly towards the PDP, because that state was formerly a PDP state, until APC came, did what they know how to do best. The fault is not mine. The secretary to the government said they rigged. That was what he said. Abena, Ms. Honorable Sunday Abegunde said they rigged the election. I didn't say so.
He recanted.
If he recanted, at what age? It was like what Oshomole did. He talked about Pastor Isayamu, described him in an unprintable manner, and then he came again begging. He said, oh, I was 64 when I said that, and now at 68, I'm saying another thing. Abena is above 60.
All right. So Dr. Nikromai, the last time around, 4 years ago, your candidate was beaten by the incumbent governor of the APC.
Very well.
And the word in town is that he said that he will do it yet again.
Well, when you run a race and you sprint well and you come first, you must continue to train. If you go ahead and you begin to eat pounded yam every morning, evening, and afternoon, and you put on weight, then you now come to say you want to go to Olympics and run, you won't make it. There are others who want to take over from you. When Akete came in, recall, I was his agent. I remember you spoke with me.
Absolutely.
I was his agent at that particular election.
What went wrong? You left him.
So many things went wrong.
You left him. Why did you abandon him?
I didn't abandon him.
But you left him. You left the party.
Oh, yes, I left the party and left the government. Because
you took appointment also at some point.
No, I was his senior special assistant on oil and gas. So if we go through that, let me just give you in a jiffy. Senior special assistant, I was appointed on the 18th of April, 2017. I left on the 30th of November, 2018. Just barely a year and some few months. What would have accounted for this? From November 2017 to November 2018, no single document, no single communication passed through my table. I did not have anybody as my commissioner. I was responsible to the governor. Yet, meetings were held about oil and gas. So many other bodies were coming to the state, holding meetings. There was this committee that was set up, headed by our respected engineer Kupolukun, on Owena oil and gas and all that. And yet I knew next to nothing. Even when I showed up, they looked at me as a stranger. And I began to wonder, what would have gone wrong? I had been the commissioner that represented the state on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission. But I want to say this today, Shehu. I have not come out to criticize Aketi or this why, because on the 16th of April, 2017, I was with him in Government House. He took some decisions. I said, Your Excellency, these decisions are not right, but I have made up my mind not to criticize you. And I did not. But when he now says he wants to go ahead in those things that are wrong, I said, you cannot. It's not possible. If I have pampered you all this while, then we cannot continue with this.
So you would describe your moments with him as a horrible one and the one that you think that he's done the wrong things. Is that right?
You know, one of the things, I was a member of the committee that is set up, in fact, we call it SPDIC, that is set up for the purpose of bringing people together across the length and breadth of the state and even the nation for the purpose of producing blueprints for its government. Hardly had we submitted the report when the governor took a decision, a very far-reaching decision, to the effect that 30,000 naira was the amount payable in our tertiary institution, Akungba, Adekunle Ajasin University, Akungba. From 30,000, it was jacked up, not to 60,000. If it was 60,000, it would have been just 100%. It was not to 90,000. It was not to 120. It was not to 150. It was not to 180. Jack it up to above 200,000. I was looking aghast.
So, I mean, for you, you left the APC to the PDP.
Very well.
And you think that, because if the governor speaks, he speaks about his achievement. And how do you describe the last almost 4 years of his government? How do you describe it?
Whatever I say now, people will read the meaning that, oh, it's because Benson is not with them. But any woman speaks the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Where I go wrong, Shehu, I admit. Where I do not do right, I admit. But when things are patently wrong, I will talk about it.
So you think Aketi, the governor, does not have a chance?
The possibility of Aketi returning is like Kilimanjaro mountain returning to Nigeria.
All right, just a moment. We'll go on a short break, but I just wanted to know that the Commissioner of Information, Donald Ojogo, joins us now. Mr. Ojogo, before we go on our break, let me get you into the conversation. You heard Dr. Enukoma. He says, the way he describes it, that the chances of your principal in getting re-election is like Kilimanjaro returning to Nigeria. How do you react to that?
I'm very sure you have also enjoyed the deal of entertainment that have come from Mr. Benson and Nikoli. I find him a deal of entertainment because from what I could deduce from what he said, like every other person has deduced, he has said so much from very little or none about this government. Well, I am not going to go personal with him because he has raised some pertinent issues, which I believe are deserving of a very patent response. But he talked about the difficulty for our governor coming back for a second.
Sorry, Mr. Ojogo, just for a moment. We need to take this break. Hopefully, when we come back, we'll fix that audio issues with your connection. We'll take a break, and when we come back, more on the Ondo State governorship election. On the heels of what happened in Ondo State, it does look like the PDP is saying they have a chance in Ondo State. We discuss the perspectives and the chances, the permutation ahead of that race. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We'll be right back.
There's a claim to put before the appeal. How I will respond to it, I will respond to it with the appeal. The appeal process is there, and I've handled it. So, if you claim it was fraudulent, it is you to prove. Well, for me, the deputy leaving APC to go back to PDP is good riddance of bad rubbish. We thought we could accommodate him in APC, but since he made a choice to go back to where he truly belonged, so all well and good. Tayo Jegede is my friend. We are colleagues. We are both members of the NABA. I have nothing against him. I just pray that our campaign should be issue-based. So if it's issue-based, no violence, we all can go ahead and do whatever we can do. And I know that he knows that it is not easy for him. I'm not saying it's easy for me to win, but I know that by the grace of God, I'm going to win. So it's not with God on my side, it's not going to be easy for him.
I am impressed. I am happy. For me, it's a thing of joy to be here. The time now is 8:30 p.m. The entire people of Ifo are waiting for us. We give glory to God that we have met our supporters. By the grace of God, we will vote on 10th of October 2020 and will emerge victorious. You can see the people, they are all here. Youth, full of energy. PDP is on the way to victory.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation. It's about Ondo governorship election and the race for the #1 seat in the southwest state. And so, getting to talk with some of those who are in the know about this race, the spokesperson of the PDP campaign organization in Ondo State, Dr. Benson Enukwuomei, has been talking with us tonight. And also, we have Donald Ojogo, who is the Commissioner for Information in Ondo State. Of course, he's with the incumbent governor and the candidate of the APC. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight's program. Let me begin this conversation again with you, Mr. Ojogo. I asked Dr. Enukwuomei about the Edo governorship election, and a lot of inferences people are drawing into the lesson of Edo State that PDP won. Any apprehension for your party from what has happened in Edo State? We'll get back to Mr. Ojogo in a moment. Let me, Dr. Enukwuomei, if you look at the voting population, look at what we saw, and the fact that there is a third leg in the race, which is the ZLP candidate, third leg in the sense that the popularity and the campaign mood that we've seen in Ondo State presently, it does look like not only the candidate of the PDP or the APC, we have a ZLP candidate who is the deputy governor. What are your chances? Because that definitely, the caliber of person Agbola Ajayi is very massive, isn't it? Is a very strong political personality in Ondo State. Has that in any way affected the chances of your candidate?
There are two main political parties in Nigeria, namely APC and the PDP. The ZLP, Zenith Labour Party in Ondo State, is a reactionary party. It's a fallout party. It's not a party that is rooted in the politics of Nigeria. It's not. It is an Ondo State party, and people are the handlers of same are also Ondo State. Now, For Honorable Agbola Ajayi, he's held some position in the state. But you see, if you are to know a man or a woman, you draw close to the immediate families who will describe the man to you. Now, the boss of Agbola Ajayi is our own Arakuni, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, SAN. Of recent, in one of the interviews he granted, I'm not so sure whether it was on your channel or on one of the programs, he described him as an unreliable person. In fact, he went ahead to say a neophyte, a nikunku. I'm quoting his words, not me. And that for our own candidate, Ida Ojegede, which he has also said just now, that he doesn't feel bad if such a person emerges, because Ondo State is a state that prides itself in terms of education. But for this kind of, for Honorable Agbola Ajayi, that never Ondo State. So the description therefore tells you the quality that is emerging. Yes, somebody can come back and say, yes, I have some popularity as it were. When it comes to the real issue, PDP will stand, quote and unquote, gidigba.
All right, just a moment.
On the ground, like First Bank.
I understand that Donald Jojogo is back with us now. And so the question I asked earlier to Mr. Ojogo is the fact that what happened in Edo State, the lessons and the inference that the opposition in your state are drawing to it is that if there is a victory in Edo State, there's probably going to be a mirror of that in Ondo State on the 10th of October. Is there any apprehension on your side?
Well, first, there is nothing like apprehension on the side of the APC and particularly on the side of our governorship candidates, who is the governor of the state, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, SAN. Well, those who believe and strongly push the position that the outcome of the Edo election, which took place on the 19th of September, will have some effects on that of Ondo State, which is scheduled for October 10. Well, they have a right to push for it. But I want to describe that as a misadventurous calculation, in the sense that while in the case of Edo State, it was a two-horse race, the case of Ondo State is not different. Also, you should also realize the fact that the circumstances, the political scenario in Edo are different from the political scenario in Ondo State. And if the people of Edo State have voted for continuity, have voted for good governance, then the people of Ondo State will not do differently. That I can bet for.
But if you look at what is happening, you look at Mr. Ita Ojegede, he comes from a town that has one of the largest voting population in Ondo State. He said the last time that he had only about 3 or 4 days to campaign, and he garnered those kind of votes. Is there any fear about the fact now that he has a lot of time on his hands? And if you look at the presidential election in Ondo State the last time, is this a source of worry for the APC at this time?
Well, the outcome of the presidential election, I personally was a victim, but rather the outcome of the House of Assembly election should be a source of worry to the opposition PDP. Because shortly after the National Assembly and the presidential election, 2 weeks after, or maybe a week after, there was this election that took place into the State House of Assembly. Out of 26 seats, I think the APC in the state got minimum of 23. We are 23. So that should rather be a source of worry to the PDP rather than the outcome of the presidential election being a source of worry to the APC. And the circumstances of the outcome of that presidential election, there are things that are already within the public domain. They are within the level of discourse in the party. That is as far as the APC is concerned then, because of the internal problem. And here is a party that has overcome all the internal problems. The internal circumstances that were peculiar to the state, to the chapter of the party, are no existence. So what else do we fear for? What should be the reason for apprehension? For the first time, the party is more united. There is more cohesion in the party. There is a better understanding among the leadership of the party. And there is proper coordination among the leaders of the party.
All right, Mr. Ojogo, if I may come in quickly, someone like Mr. B.C. Lawole, the commissioner for Osopadek, has left your camp today. Also, some of the allies of your principal, former governor Olusegun Mimiko, is a very good friend of your principal, the governor, but now is aligning with the ZLP candidate. Are these not minuses and negatives for your side in the race? And when Dr. Eniko Mayin said, your party has a low chance in this race.
Well, without being immodest, we do not consider the issue of the resignation of a part-time or subordinate commissioner as a very potent force. We don't consider it as possible of having any negative impact. After all, can you recall the number of persons who resigned from a particular state shortly before an election? What was the outcome? So the resignation of persons from a government do not, to a very large extent, determine the outcome of that election. The second leg of your question is whether or not the non-support of the immediate past governor of the state will not have some adverse effects on the chances of our candidates. But I want to place it on record that in 2016, this same immediate past governor never supported Akeredolu. He propped up a candidate, he failed. In 2019, he contested out of the 18 local governments that he ruled for 8 years. He contested, he wanted to be a senator. He failed. Out of 6 local governments, he won in only 2. That shows the level of depreciation. That shows the level of degradation that has developed the political personality of an individual. And let me also say this: what people from those states are very much prepared to resist is what we call internal colonialism. The people of Ondo State, particularly those from the south, believe strongly that the caution of the former governor Miko in of the state, particularly is self-proclaimed and love for the people of the south, is interpreted to mean that man wants to be governor for the third time through the back door, using issues around the southern central district as far as the governorship of the state is concerned. The people of the state are not prepared to give Dr. Olusegun Mimiko.
Just a moment, Mr. Ojogo. Let's take a breather from that connection, and from what you see on the ground, because I've seen this happen either for APC or PDP. When APC lost an election in Ekiti the last time, they reorganized themselves for Ekiti. You think that APC has not learned its lesson in Edo State to reorganize itself for Ondo State? You think your party is ready to match APC in terms of the power of incumbency? Because now Rotimi Akeredolu, the governor, will be coming to say, these are the projects that I've done. What will your candidate be campaigning on?
You see, when a man is dealt a devastating blow in a boxing ring, it depends on the potency of that blow that will make him to say, I want to continue the race. The blow that was dealt with APC in Edo State, up to this very moment, they are still working as if to say somebody was in the dream. Now, let me tell you the truth, Mr. Shehu. If Aketi had gotten some things on ground for which he can beat his chest that he has done well, then we can say, oh yes, this fight will be the fight of the Titans. Of course not. I'll start from Ondo South. I am an Elijah person from the riverside of Ondo State. That is the local government that makes Ondo State an oil-producing state. Every month, derivation comes from the federal government, 13% derivation. In 2003, the law that was passed states that of the 13%, when you turn it into 100%, the people from the oil-producing area should have 40% for the purpose of developing that area. While the remaining part of the state will take 60% of the derivation. I'm not talking about the total revenue that comes from the federal allocation. I'm only talking about the 13% derivation. And the 13% derivation that comes every month, the least that has ever come to Osopadek on the basis of 40% ranges from 600 million and above on monthly basis. There was a time in the state that 2 billion was coming as the derivation. And if you work 40% of 2 billion, that will give you 800 million. I am willing and prepared. And I say this on a national, international television such as Channel Television, to say I will sponsor the cost to go to Ilaje and find out which project this government began, this government completed from 2017 that it took over. Now, of recent, they went to Abutu and recommissioned the water project that Dr. Mimiko's administration initiated, completed, and commissioned, whether it was fully done or not, but he commissioned same. That was the same project they went ahead to recommission, as if to say they began it and they did it.
So you are saying invariably, in terms of, because I've asked that,
no,
Mr. Akeredolu will come forward to say, I have projects to show.
No, he can show projects.
On what will your candidate be campaigning on? You have not mentioned what your candidate will be campaigning on.
I will tell you. My candidate was the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice of Ondo State for a period of 7.5 years before he resigned. During his tenure, he was the one who codified the laws of Ondo State into 4 volumes and ensure that our laws now are codified. That was the assignment given to him. He had not ruled this state before. But the question is this. When you see a man who goes to the bed and bedwets, and he comes and he's saying, please give me the second chance, as against the one who has not gone to that bed and is looking clean. We have tested Aketi. We have tossed him up. We have looked at him from all sides. And if I may describe Shehu without being immodest, if we look at the book of Daniel, chapter 5, verses 22 down to 27, what we look at, we will see a word, tekel, meaning we have weighed you, we have balanced you, we have found wanting.
So in 30 seconds, what will be your final thought?
My final thought is this. The people of Ondo State, you have a choice. The choice of choosing between the right and the wrong. Today, the PDP presents a credible, reliable candidate in person of Eyita Ojekede. Look at his mien. Look at his disposition. Look at who he is.
All right.
And therefore, choose ye this day whom you will serve. Is he the one that has kept you in servitude for these past 3.5 years? If you continue, it will be woe and woe. Choose PDP, and the choice is going to be a good choice.
Dr. Enukwumehin, let's allow Mr. Ojogo. What will your candidate, Mr. Ojogo, be campaigning on? You heard what Dr. Enukwumehin had said. As you go to the polls, what will your candidate be telling the people of Ondo State?
Well, it's an interesting scenario. The truth of the matter is that we are building our campaign on a solid foundation of achievements, on a very solid foundation of what we've been able to achieve in the last 3.5 years, particularly with special reference to the South Senatorial District. What the people of Ondo State will resist is a return to Egypt. My brother and friend, Dr. Enukwumehin, has described this candidate as one of the best that can happen to Ondo State. But I want to tell the world that a vote for his candidate is a return to Egypt. This is a man that was Attorney General for years. Under the same man, he has vilified. Under the same man, he has kumel. I'm talking about Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. You cannot appropriate and reprobate at the same time. Unless it's the same something he doesn't understand. Here is a man that started over the state tender board for about 80 years and never for once initiated a project that was beneficial to the people of the South, particularly to his own local government, the larger local government. We had an opportunity of generating revenue without relying fact. That is the Dangote refinery. What happened? What were the negotiations? What were the contracts and the indices of the negotiations that pushed Dangote refinery away from the larger local government to Lagos? We must ask our people. We must tell our people to ask what happened to that project that was taken away. What were the negotiations that they couldn't complete? Or what were those issues that they avoided the limit? Or what were
It's unfortunate that connection is a very terrible one. We must close this section of the program. I must sincerely thank you, Dr. Enukwumehin, for coming on tonight. And Mr. Ojogo, we hope that we'll be able to drag you to the studio, Mr. Ojogo, in the coming days, and of course talk more about what is happening in your state ahead of the election. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll look at the labor strike that is looming, what the President Buhari is doing about it, and the fact that electricity tariff and the increase in petrol price that has made the labor leaders say they will go to the street and shut down the activities, gets us talking, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, is not giving up yet on its plan to embark on a nationwide industrial action and protest against the recent increase in the price of fuel and electricity tariff. The NLC president, Ayuba Waba, says union leaders have all endorsed the 7-day ultimatum it issued to the federal government to reverse its decision of face a nationwide protest and industrial action. Last week, the organized labor movement threatened a nationwide protest and strike beginning from the 28th of September, which is just less than a week from now. Mr. Waba made the comments after the NLC National Working Committee meeting in Abuja. Meanwhile, the federal government will tomorrow again meet with the leadership of the organized labor movement to have a discussion with the workers' unions about their planned strike and protest against the twin increment in the prices of fuel and electricity. Tonight, let's get a sense of what this means and the implication on the economy and, of course, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. I've joining me, Mr. Amechi Asugini. He's Vice President of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Thank you so much, Mr. Asugini, for coming tonight.
Thank you, Sharon.
Why is Labour wanting to go on strike? First and foremost, the federal government will say, look, it's good. I mean, we're trying to fix things in the oil and gas sector, and it will come with its implication. A lot of people have clamored for the removal of fuel subsidy. We're doing that, and that means that the price will come up, the market will determine it. The electricity issue, those involved in it that say, look, this is also an issue of if you use more, you pay more. Is there any alternative from the labor end?
I think first I start by saying for record purposes, I am the Deputy President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, and looking at the action plan by Labour on the issue of removal of fuel subsidy is a threat on arrival. And I believe government already know the essence of subsidy commitment before now was to prevent hardship on Nigerians until such a time when refineries would have been made working and then production of this product become much available for the price to naturally drop, because we're talking about factors of demand and supply. Situation whereby you wake up and you say you deregulate without making those provisions, already you become insensitive in the suffering of Nigerians. So there is no way Nigeria will accept federal government decision to deregulate, subjecting the same product from importation. That is to say there is no end to the hike of the price.
So the labor union or the NLC or the labor movement is not accepting the explanation of the federal government that says, look, we are in a hard time and we can no longer fund subsidy.
At whose expense? If you are in a hard time, when palliative should be the order of the day for ordinary Nigerians that cannot even provide for themselves, Don't forget a country which individual household fund itself in terms of provision for social welfare. You all agree with me that the primary essence of governance is the well-being of the people. So if you take a decision that will subject Nigeria to suffering in the midst of COVID-19, that is a big injury. And it's difficult to accept because this is the same government finding it difficult to offer something on the table. Peradventure, there is a program telling Nigerians how much refineries has worked. What was the capacity, and today, what has it improved to? Nothing has worked in terms of refinery. Why wouldn't refinery work? Why would you export our employment? And then you import high price of petrol for Nigerians to suffer. And then when you say you deregulate, and then you allow certain people, who are these importers, if Nigeria want to know? Who are the importers? Who are these nominees that must benefit at the expense of Nigerians? Nobody is saying subsidy should not be removed. Neither Labour has said so. But you can only remove subsidy when provisions have been made working in Nigeria in such a way that refineries have been put on hold for such a long time. Experts have proven that refineries are still new, it can work and it can function. Why have they not made effort? From inception, how many decades now? You think refineries have failed to work? You think something is wrong in that area? Something is wrong with the governing key. Because where you don't see, they say what you don't have, you don't give. There is meeting, Labour will always make itself available for meeting. But I doubt such provision that will convince Labour to actually put on
because I understand that there's been meetings and there will be another meeting tomorrow. Yes. What is the federal government telling Labour about their plans and what they have done? Because the federal government had done it, the prices are being, the deregulation has commenced, not like there is a negotiation about whether or not it will commence. It has commenced. The electricity tariff regime has commenced also. But what has the federal government told Labour?
I think I may not speak for them, but for the one I witnessed, the meeting of last week, there was nothing on the table. And you don't expect Labour to suggest way out to government who deliberately proceeded to remove subsidy and increase the tariff, electricity tariff without recourse to this consultation. They didn't consult, there was no consultant as to consequence of your action, and now the consequence is before Nigerians, and you want me to suggest the way out? The way out is to reverse. You have to reverse. So what Labour is saying now is that it's either you reverse or we shut down the nation. Definitely. Either you reverse, put certain indices, those facilities that must work, that guarantees Nigerians that there is hope. You know, don't forget, where you engage in activity that does not guarantee your future, the threat become more even to the economy itself. Because one would think that if you are making demands and negotiating, it's a fact that I have my own stance and you have your demands as Labour. So the thinking is that does Labour have an alternative aside saying you reverse to the old ways? Because the federal government has said the old ways we cannot as a nation afford it. Is there a middle point? The federal government has failed to tell Nigeria their plans for Nigerians. You are only telling us that you cannot continue to fund subsidy. We agree with you. What have you done? Don't forget, in the case of electricity, federal government sold electricity at the rate of about 400 billion naira. The same federal government told us that they have spent in less than 5 years 1.5 trillion in the same business that does not belong to you. Where is the wisdom? Where is the governance key? Something is wrong. So and if you don't push them, they will not factor the truth. We've heard programs like Sure P. Yes. Because when they were planned for deregulation and all that, those kind of whatever, is the Labour looking to bring back that kind of program? You see, programs of that nature, you call it Sure P, you call it Sure T, all of these programs are designed to benefit little. You know, the names will always tell you the purpose to mean for the people. But the implementation has not yielded result. The government would have told you time without number, they put in huge amount of money in electricity. None has worked. They promised Nigeria to meter everybody so that the estimating Till today, we have engaged government for more than 3 years on that. Metering become impossible. Before now, the Minister of Power used to measure electricity through a better pass my neighbor, as Nigeria will call it, that making it 1,000 can empower a nation. But all of a sudden, he failed in his hand.
Mr.
Now, the new Minister of Power also is still dragging within the same context.
Mr. Asugini, tomorrow is Thursday, a day before the weekend of Friday, and the weekend starts. And you are an experienced labor leader. Do you think that something can happen in terms of negotiation, and whether there will be a shifting of grounds before Monday? Because that is when you said the strike will commence. But from what we have heard from Labour, you have said that it's going to be the mother of all strikes.
As far as Labour is concerned, the discussion from tomorrow depends on government offer. Mobilization is already in place. As a matter of fact, officers have been moved to different zones to ensure that there is no relapse of mobilization. Meeting can be going on, leaders will engage, but leaders are on ground. For me, it's a total strike because we are the people, we are feeling it, and we must speak for the voiceless.
How far will this strike go?
Indefinite.
How far-reaching will it be? We've seen strike in such that a lot of activities of government were paralyzed. What are the segments that are going to be involved in this strike? Because an average Nigerian will also feel the heat of the strike.
As a matter of fact, the average Nigerians are calling for the strike. Initially, probably many didn't get to know the consequence of this in their own living way. But now, as I speak to you, all sector of Nigeria economy will be shut down. It's a decision that was far-reaching to the extent that commitments were taken by all trade union leaders, and to the best of my knowledge, including the civil society and other groups, are ready to engage government until they reverse this decision. Because if we fail to do the needful, then anarchy is before Nigeria.
So two things. It's either government reverses or Labour shut down the country.
And that, I think, is a concluded plan. And
Wow.
come Monday, 28th of September, I believe Nigeria should be stalking by now, because it's not going to be any type of...
It's not a tea party.
It's never a matter of joke. Labour is serious, and they must engage this time.
Well, I hope things change and we can have a meeting point so that production will not be shut down. We cannot afford a shutdown of production and for this country, because the nation is really, really suffering in terms of production, and the economy is really suffering.
And I think government would think in that direction, because if government is becoming or going to be adamant to the demand of labor, I tell you that democracy represents the people, and labor is talking for the people,
right.
And the position of labor reflects the position of the masses.
Amechi Asuginin, the deputy president, isn't it,
yes,
of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And we look forward to that meeting with the Labour and the federal government tomorrow. Unfortunately, the Minister of Labour was supposed to also be part of the program tonight. For some reason, he said he was in a meeting and he could not join us. We'll definitely get him so that you can hear what the federal government is also doing. But that's how we close the program today. Many thanks everyone for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.